I went into the new Superman movie thinking I wouldn't have much to say about it, but I got to see it a few days before wide release, so I actually have time to articulate my thoughts about it before the masses start arguing. James Gunn, the man behind Disney's Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, who was fired by Disney due to his strange Twitter presence when it began circulating online, and then rehired by Disney because, I guess, money, has now moved on from the MCU to spearhead the new DCU, starting with his Superman movie, which he wrote and directed. I'll get into the details on that whole thing in the spoiler section, because, yeah, these real-life events actually play a part in the plot of this new Superman movie. First off, one of the two positives that I have about this film is David Cornsweet, who is the new Superman. If there was only going to be one thing to say positively about the Superman movie, I would hope it would be about Superman himself, and thankfully it is. I wanted to take notes during the movie, but since my cramped IMAX theater was full, I only managed to write one thing down at the very start of the movie. He said golly. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. I know that's due to the writing, which James Gunn is the only writer credited, but Cornsweet did a good job at bringing that Boy Scout energy to life. Something about the Superman character that I always found interesting was the line between his last son of Krypton image and the secret identity of Clark Kent. They don't really play with that whole dual identity thing that much in this movie, though. Kind of like how the Batman didn't really bother with Bruce Wayne. I want to see that. I want to see those things. Those are interesting character things. Maybe the sequel, I guess. I did like the portrayal of Ma and Pa Kent, though. Pruitt Taylor Vince plays Pa Kent, and I just watched Identity for the first time. He was in that. So that's cool. The other positive thing I have to say about this movie, before I start shitting on it, was the visual style. I didn't see that much of the film's marketing, but I could tell from what I did see ahead of time that it would look visually brighter than its predecessor, the troubled Snyderverse. And I was worried that it would go overboard, looking like Ghostbusters 2016 or something, with saturation dialed up to 11 or whatever, but it's not that at all. The blues pop, and there are some sequences where otherworldly shit happens that James Gunn uses to make visual candy with. Okay, spoiler alert, because I'm going to talk about the bad of this movie now, and that includes, like, the plot, so heads up. The pacing kind of reminded me of Rise of Skywalker.
Say what?
For those lucky enough to be ignorant of that whole clusterfuck, J.J. Abrams was brought back to direct Episode 9 of Star Wars after directing Episode 7 because the Episode 8 director, Rian Johnson, decided to undo the story that Abrams set up in the first one. The story goes that Rian's narrative departure was such a train wreck that Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy fired Colin Trevorrow, who was originally hired to direct the third one, Episode 9, and in a desperate attempt to course correct, she brought back J.J. Abrams because The Force Awakens was positively received. What ended up happening, though, with Rise of Skywalker was the story moved so fast, having to undo everything done in the prior entry, resulting in a Frankenstein's monster of sorts. You know, scenes not being scenes, rather ideas from the writer's room that are haphazardly stitched together. Was Superman's story told as poorly as Star Wars 9? No, it wasn't nearly that bad, but I make the comparison because there's so much in this movie that it induces the same sensation of motion sickness. Not from nauseating visuals, but a story that moves so fast that you forget what you're watching. So, at the beginning of the movie, we get these title cards establishing that not only have metahumans, super people, have existed in the DCU for 300 years, but so has Superman for the past 3. Don't get me wrong, I understand why James Gunn did this. Everybody knows the Superman story by now, you know, planet go boom, baby crash lands, gets raised by farmers, etc. But it's not just the origin story that's skimmed past. Those same title cards continue on to say that Superman just intervened with a foreign invasion of the fictional Baravia of another country, another fictional foreign country. Had to Google this one. Jarhanpur? And that he also had a big fight with a different metahuman called the Hammer of Baravia, and he lost that fight. That's the opening title. And then Superman crashes into frame and the movie actually starts. It would make sense to have that be part of the opening titles if it's not important, but that off-screen fight is what sets the whole plot in motion, affecting the entire movie. Also, that whole Baravia invasion subplot is kind of the backbone of the entire film's narrative. They even have a cartoony evil president, or prime minister, or whatever, that the movie keeps cutting to, scheming with Lex Luthor. Oh yeah, Lex Luthor, he's in this movie. Nicholas Hoult. I don't like that guy. I don't like his face. Ricky, you're not supposed to like Lex Luthor, he's the bad guy. Nah, dude, listen. Lex Luthor ain't no bitch boy, alright? The dude runs for president several times throughout an array of different comic book runs. Nobody's voting for this whiny fuck. Another reason this movie's paced so poorly is because they also have 3 members of the new Justice League in here, except it's not the Justice League yet, it's Maxwell Lord's corporate, privatized version of the Justice League called the Justice Gang, featuring Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl, and Green Lantern, the Guy Gardner version. That's cool, I guess. You know, it's a new cinematic universe, gotta have multiple heroes and shit. But they really just took screen time away from the guy whose name is in the fucking title. And they didn't really serve any story purpose other than to say, hey look, a new DCU. More movies coming soon. Check them out. That's what trailers are for, man. You don't gotta advertise future projects in the movie. That takes away from the story. I did like Metamorpho, though. That's someone we haven't gotten on screen before. And he does cool, weird shit. That's the shit I like. There are times that he's just a floating head with, like, tentacle shit coming out of him. He's also got a son who's like a green baby that Superman has to save from drowning in a cosmic river that's all purple and shit. Awesome visual stuff. There's also a lot of cubic imagery in all those interdimensional sequences. I like that. Metamorpho's played by NoHo Hank from the show Barry. Not that you can see him under all that makeup, but Barry's a great show. And they also have Albert Nguyen in here, who played a pretty significant role in Barry, though he doesn't really do anything that big in Superman. But it's cool to see 2 people from that show in here. That's good stuff. Go check out Barry. Rachel Brosnahan is Lois Lane, and there's another subplot going on with Superman and Lois's love quest, which is another element that doesn't have room to breathe in this already crowded story. But you can't have a Superman movie without the Lois love quest, I guess. It's no fault of the actor. She did a good job of Lois. It's just unfortunate that her character didn't have time to breathe, despite all the screen time she had. Remember that James Gunn Twitter shit I mentioned earlier? And how it played a role in the Superman movie? Yeah, about that. So, Lex Luthor funds the foreign nation of Baravia in their invasion of the other place, resulting in the beatdown of Superman, that we don't see, at the beginning of the movie. Luthor uses Superman's presence in a foreign conflict to farm online hate of Superman. Even going so far as to have an army of Russian bots, interdimensional monkeys, writing fake mean tweets about Superman, effectively canceling him.
Is this nigga serious?
Yes. Yes, I am. Not only does he utilize his debut chapter of his new DCU as an allegory for his wrongful persecution, James Gunn also features comedian Michael Ian Black, another Hollywood weirdo who was canceled at the same time as Gunn for equally questionable tweets, as the lead news anchor reporting on Superman's cancellation.
Is this nigga serious?
Yes. Yes, I am. I don't know if James Gunn is expecting like a go-off queen response from the people that go see Superman. But he's not getting it from Ricky Doo. I tell you what. As I write this, though, I'm thinking, am I reading too deep into this? Was Michael Ian Black's casting just a coincidence? Is James Gunn still stewing over his Disney firing, despite them caving and bringing him back to finish his Guardians trilogy? Or am I the one still stewing about the idea of prominent Hollywood names being freaks? There's going to be people asking those, like myself, why you gotta make everything political? It's a fucking Superman movie. Well,
let me tell you a couple of 3 things.
1. The plot centers around a fascist takeover of a helplessly innocent third world country. I've already seen YouTube reviews compare it to Israel and Palestine, but given the state of the media and the fact that this was written a year or 2 ago, James Gunn probably wrote it as a commentary on Russia and Ukraine. Not to mention, the portrayal of the Baravian president is way too over the top to be likened to Lord Bibi. Number 2, the other big part of this new Superman story is cancel culture, as I mentioned earlier. Something that James Gunn is still clearly bitter about.
Is this nigga?
And lastly, number trace, those people that call out the political commentary of the new Superman movie are probably the same people that treat modern Star Wars like it's George Orwell. I don't want to start a trend of me giving official ratings, but I'll make an exception for Superman. 6 out of 10, I guess. Not terrible, not great. Actually, let's make that 6.5, because they didn't include a Pattinson Batman scene. Thank God.